I have two confessions to make. Confession number one, this isn't tea, it's root beer. And confession number two is I have an obsession with tiny miniature things. Tchotchkes, if you will. I love a knick-knack, a trinket, a tiny little guy. I love them. I love them all. And it's become a real addiction because I live in Japan, the land of gacha. And if you have never seen a gacha before, they are like a gumball machine, but for incredibly weird and niche trinkets. I have gotten tiny little trinkets like extremely buff rabbits pounding mochi, little Mr. Meeksies doing weird things like holding your toothbrush. I've gotten tiny sexy old men. I've gotten food in the shape of every animal that you could possibly think of. And it got me thinking one day, hey, Miniverse, Mini Brands, that's a company. They make tiny adorable things and they have all sorts of series, but they're really missing their key demographic. Honestly, the market has failed us. There are museum-loving millennials out here with adult money, and there are hardly any tiny museum items, and that needs to be changed. That is a cause that I am passionate about, and that's what we're gonna do in this series. You and I are going to create our most coveted museum items in miniature and put them on a tiny cabinet of curiosity. Today we're going way back, and we're gonna start off this series with two of my most coveted items, incantation bowls and tattooed dogu. And now, if you don't know what they are, it's totally fine. I'm gonna explain them and their history in this video. But I have to warn you, I have no pottery experience. We're going in blind, and we're using dollar store products. So if you would also like to follow along in this series with me and make some of these items, head to your local dollar store. I live in Japan, so I went to Daiso. So we're gonna use Daiso products to make museum quality minis, and it's gonna be fabulous. So without further ado, let's take a swig of root beer and get to it. Alrighty, so these are the tools that we're gonna be using today. A rolling pin, a little spatula of sorts. I'm not sure. If you know the official name, please let me know in the comments. And this little pokey plastic knife thing. Again, please tell me what these are. We'll also be using some acrylic paint in black and gold. The dough that we're using today, the clay that we're using today is just your basic oven-baked clay. And then we have naked fingers. I feel so exposed. Please don't judge them. Alrighty, let's get to it. So first we're gonna start off with our clay and not really get a lot. I'm not sure how big I wanna make these, but I definitely know I want them to be little tiny babies, or as tiny as I can possibly make them. Like I said, I don't really have any experience doing pottery. I did take AP art in high school, so there's that. I don't believe we did any pottery though. But you know what? We try and we fail, and that's okay. So the first item that we're gonna start with today, I initially thought it would be the easiest one, the incantation bowls, but turns out making a bowl is really hard. So these Mesopotamian incantation bowls were used for hundreds of years in various cultures. And fun fact about Mesopotamia, it refers to a region, so there are multiple cultures and empires within Mesopotamia. The Sasanian Empire were heavy incantation bowl users and creators and created a huge economy for the creation of these bowls. And thousands of them had been found in various states of repair. Initially, we had no idea what they were used for or why they had boobylicious babes in the center of them. So I'm gonna keep their secrets for a little bit longer while I explain. So if you know the answer, don't spoil it, okay? Don't say anything. So, unlike my very primitive finger, whatever is happening right now, we seem to be struggling with the basic clay worm, but you know what? We're giving it our best. Real incantation bowls were crafted by pottery experts using wheels, not unlike the ones you would see in a studio today. I mean, minus like the electricity. And do not be coming up in my comment section talking about ancient aliens and their electricity, okay? They didn't have it. Their sizes could range from about 6 inches in diameter to 10 inches. And those 10-inch big boys are called elephant bowls, which is absolutely adorable. As for the shape of the bowls, some were concave, like a bowl, and some were convex, like an opposite bowl. In 1947, during an excavation of a building in the city of Babylon, a set of bowls known now as the Bowers bowls were found. And this was an incredible discovery in the world of incantation bowls, because these two bowls were pretty much intact and we could kind of read what was on them. And once enough of them were found, archaeologists could start piecing together their language and purpose. And what they found was super duper freaking cool. They were written in different Aramaic dialects and even Aramaic gibberish, like how, kids write before they learn their native language. They just kind of mimic what the letters look like, and they're not creating words, they're just creating gobbledygook shapes, and that's exactly what some of these bowls had. Before we continue and I tell you what exactly these bowls were used for and what the writing actually says, let us take a minute to observe the struggle bus that is happening currently on the screen. I don't know what I am doing, and I'm going to learn very quickly that rubbing water on the clay is just gonna put it, it's gonna make it stick to this stupid freaking mat. Look at this. What is happening? That's exactly what, hindsight is 2020. Okay, we're starting over again. Anyways, what the archaeologists found on these bowls, written in various Aramaic dialects, was magic, friend. Magic. Like full-blown magic, babe. We're talking witchcraft and wizardry of the highest order. These bowls were used in both apotropaic and exorcistic magic, meaning magic to avert evil and magic to expel evil from one's body. The words written around the bowl evoked the power of deities from several religions, such as Judaism, Christianity, and Zoroastrianism, etc., which is really cool because some of these religions were anti-magic. So my question is, were they using it on the DL? Were they sneaky practitioners? They must not have been, because these bowls were almost always commissioned. One would not simply whip together a bowl like I'm doing today, because number one, a potter had to make the bowl, and number two, a specific magic practitioner / scribe would be the one to write the incantation along the outside of the bowls, because if they didn't, the magic wouldn't work. And now all I can think about is an ancient Mesopotamian person thinking about their grocery list for later in the day and being like, oh yeah, I need to order an anti-sudden death bowl for Timmy later. Oh shoot, I forgot to pick up my fever bowl from the incantation store. Which are two very real uses for these incantation bowls. They were used to get rid of sickness and fever. They were used to curse enemies. They were used to exorcise demons. And very specifically, they were used to keep away the baby-eating demon, Lilitu. If you've been following For the Love of History for a while, you know that few seasons ago, we did an episode on the history of Lilith, and we found out about these ancient Mesopotamian demons called Lilitu or Liliti that may be the origins of the Lilith story. And we briefly talked about these incantation bowls in that episode. So if you want to go check that out in its entirety, I will put it somewhere on the screen right now. So like I said before, there are different uses for these incantation bowls to help with fevers, diseases, guard from sudden death or injuries or treachery, and exorcise an evil spirits. And you could commission an incantation bowl for yourself or for someone else. So you could be the commissioner, but not the receiver of the particular incantation, which is really cool. I like that I could, on behalf of like my friend, curse one of their enemies, and then it couldn't be traced back to them. So now we have our 3 bowls done. Supervisor Waffles has approved the creation of the bowls. Now we are going to pop them in the oven and come back. And what am I doing right now? Stop it. It was perfect before. Leave it alone. Pop it in the oven, and we're gonna come back and paint them. And if you are following along with me, please be sure to read the instructions on your clay packet, because I almost exploded all of my hard work, but we figured it out. Now it's time for my favorite part, painting. We are actually going to paint the incantation part of the incantation bowl, and we'll get started with black. Originally, these incantation bowls are painted with a combination of a petroleum derivative, the thing that you get when you're like refining crude oil, but I don't have any of that, so acrylic paint, it will have to be. As much as I would love to tell you that the #1 type of incantation found on these bowls were curses, people in the past were better. They were better than I am. So the majority of the incantations found are protection incantations and healing incantations and hope for people to get married incantations. Not cursing your next door neighbor incantations. However, there are some of those, and I thought it would be a good idea to read you some of the incantations that were found on these bowls. One said, "I make this amulet in order that it may be healing for this Hormuz, son of Ima, and for this Shabruduk, daughter of Tutsia, his wife." So we got a little twofer there. I wonder if you got a little discount at the magic shop for that. The next one that we have is a protection spell for a family, specifically a daughter/wife of that family. And it says, "Evil entities shall flee and depart from Dabhe, son of Asmandu, and from Sharkoi, daughter of Dada, his wife, and from Honik and Yasmin and Kifati and Mekda and Abraham and Panoi and Shili, the children of Sharok, and from their house and from their property and from their dwelling." That is a super long one. I bet that one was on an elephant, an elephant-sized plate. More scandalous uses of these incantation bowls in the realm of love spells. So you could use one of these incantation bowls to make someone fall in love with you. One example says, "The name of Anur, son of Parkoi, that he be inflamed and kindled and burn after Ahat, daughter of Nebzak." Now I need to know if it worked. Did the two of them get married? I need to know. I wish we could know that information. See, this is the problem with not having a time machine, is that now I have all these questions and no way to answer them. I want to go back and I want to see, did that person get sick after their incantation bowl was created? Did those people get married after that love spell incantation bowl was made? Was that person thoroughly cursed after a curse incantation bowl was created for them? I need to know this information, but alas, we will never know. So to finish us out, let's talk about how these incantation bowls were used. So first, they would be commissioned, and the magic doer and the scribe would write the incantation on the bowl after it was created. Then the bowl would be given to the person who commissioned it, or it would be given to the person who the bowl was for. Then it would be placed upside down at an entrance of a home, or in some cases it would be filled with water, and it was said that that water would absorb the evil, and after a certain number of days that water would be thrown out in a specific way, and the evil hopefully would be gone, or the magic would be done. Now, the incantation bowls that I'm making here today are as historically accurate as I can possibly make them with the tools that I have. It's really, really cute, and I love them so much. So I fashioned these after specific bowls that have really been found in the former area of Mesopotamia. And as you can see right here, what I'm painting on here is an image of that demon-eating baby that we were talking about earlier, Lilitu or Lility. And a lot of the incantation bowls that were found that are of the exorcism nature are specifically exorcising this particular demon because they were afraid of Lilitu, of Lility. And the reason that they were so afraid is because Lility or Lilitu would go after children. Sudden infant death was a big thing. The kids were unfortunately dying, and in a world where you didn't really know exactly scientifically what was going on, I'm sure having an incantation bowl felt like a little piece of control that you could have, a way to protect yourself and your children. So while past TK finishes up the rest of these incantation bowls, let's move on over to the Japanese Dogū statues. Results will come at the very end, so stay tuned, okay? Watch the whole way through, all right? In my opinion, Dogu are some of the most fascinating and infuriating artifacts that you can see at any museum, because we know like diddly squat about these things. There are lots of educated guesses, there are hypotheses, but there are no hardcore facts. And I am a fact girl, okay? I love a fact, alrighty? I need to know information. I'm nosy, I'm a Virgo, I cannot help it. But let me calm down and let's back up a little bit and talk about the people responsible for one of my many Roman empires. These clay little ladies are products of the Jomon people who lived about 13,000 years ago in northern Japan. They were a pit-dwelling semi-sedentary people that were more into gathering and hunting than agriculture. We have no idea what these people would have called themselves because they had no written language or any that survived, so they get their name from the amazing pottery that they left behind. In modern Japanese, Jomon means cord marked or rope patterned, like their pottery style. Aside from what I just told you, not a lot else is known about the Jomon people, but there are archaeologists out there trying to discover more as we speak. These weird, big head clay bubble babies were left all over the place, and the first one was discovered in the 17th century during the Tokugawa shogunate, when the leaders of Japan were trying really hard to figure out what made Japan, Japan. And they were doing their darndest to unify the country. They were having a bit of a hard time, okay? The clans were not clanning, they did not want to come together, so the shogunate ordered people to start digging to find some stuff, and that's when they found our first little bobble-headed friend, Dogu. Obviously, they were like stoked as shit and began searching for more and trying to figure out who made them and why. And spoiler alert, we still don't know 100% why they were made, but we have some theories, so I'm going to tell you about those a little bit later. But what we do know is that the people who made the Dogu were incredibly skilled potters, and they used very high quality clay, not from dice. The Dogu comes in many shapes and sizes and can be classified into heart-shaped Dogu with heart-shaped faces, goggle Dogu with little goggly eyeballs, and regular Dogu. And I'm making a goggle one, and if I had known that there were heart-shaped ones before I started making this, I would have for sure made one of those guys. But you know, we live and we learn, and maybe we can make another one someday. If you're watching this and following along at home, might I suggest not using so much water? I do believe that I used a little bit too much and made it quite slippery and not sticky enough. Also, halfway through, I've remembered the scoring technique where you have to like cut little marks into each side of the clay to get them to stick together. It took me about 3 or 4 different times to get her legs on. It was a situation, but you know what? It turned out to be easier than the plates. You've been enough of a tease. Please tell us what the theories are about these weird little clay monsters. I got you, friend. No worries. So, since their discovery, these little bug-eyed babies have caused some controversy. 1, surrounding their gender, and 2, surrounding the lines and decorations on their bodies. Let's start with the first one. Are these boys or girls or something else? Despite their otherworldly look, they are most definitely not aliens. That's not the controversy. The real tea is that all of these figures seem to be women or kind of a gender. And there are no, air quotes, male attributes, good lord, attributes found on the over 20,000 Dogu discovered to date. The earliest ones are very clearly women with tiggle bitties and pregnant bellies, and the later ones found, though distinctly not masculine, are admittedly very gender fluid, but they do have little tiny tatas. This leads some archaeologists to believe that they were fertility amulets or deities and are most likely related to some religious practice surrounding life cycles or fertility. We do know that the Jomon people were of the shamanistic flavor, so maybe these dolls were used in magical rituals? Do we have a double magic artifact today? Maybe. We will never know. What adds an extra layer of WTFery is the fact that the Dogu found in dwellings are intact, and the ones found in burials are shattered. Why? We have no idea. Some hypothesize it was an ancestor cult, maybe. Maybe these Dogu were created when a person was born and they were shattered when they died. But that wouldn't really make sense because no male figures have been found, so who friggin' knows? In the 1960s, other archaeologists were piling onto this hypothesis smorgasbord and saying that the figures were associated with goddess worship, but then others were arguing that it couldn't be goddess worship because most goddess worshipping cultures were agricultural societies, but the Jomon were mostly hunter-gatherers, so people really just go back and forth on this issue all the time, and it drives me crazy. Once again, I don't need AI. I need a time machine, y'all. Could you work on that? I don't need weird videos made with AI. I don't need weird sea creatures being created with AI. I need you to focus on time travel, guys. Get it together. Anyways, the other drama that we have in the academic world is what the patterns on the body of these figures represent. Are they tattoos? Is it scarification? Are they just fancy little whimsical flourishes? What the heck are they? And an argument can be made for any one of those. But my favorite argument, and the one that I think is most accurate and has the most evidence, is that these symbols represent tattoos. Not everybody likes this idea, and in fact, many Japanese scholars are against it because many people in Japan are not big fans of tattoos, even though Japan has a long and rich history of tattooing in different cultures from the north to the south, but I digress. In addition, many scholars are skeptical of this theory because there has been no obvious tattooing tools found in the various burial sites, so who knows? However, number 2, we do have some evidence to support this. In a 3rd century Chinese historical account called the Jishi Wangjin Den, we have the oldest record mentioning Japan, and this is what it says. Quote, "The people of Wa tattoo their faces and paint their bodies with designs. They are fond of diving for fish and shells. Long ago, they decorated their bodies in order to protect themselves from large fish. Later, their designs became ornamental. Body paintings differing among the various tribes. The position and size of design vary according to the rank of individuals. They smear their bodies with paint and scarlet just as we Chinese use powder." In addition to that piece of information, in the Kojiki, which is one of Japan's oldest documents recording myths, legends, and kind of history of Japan, it describes 2 types of tattoos that were done in Japan in the 700s. One was to distinguish a man of high status, and 2, to identify criminals. So there is a precedence for tattooing in ancient Japan, and it's not outside of the realm of possibility for these lines to represent tattoos. But with that being said, we still don't know 100% because we haven't found any artifacts leading us to believe that tattoos were done other than these Dogu. But not knowing has never stopped people from going absolutely banana sandwich over a mystery. In the 1960s and 80s, there was a Jomon frenzy. People were going ham over the Jomon period because there was a huge movement once again to figure out Japan's roots. And one man took this so far that he created a decades-long hoax known as the Japanese Paleolithic hoax that we can talk about another time maybe, but this dude wrote some wild banana sandwich things and even falsified some artifacts, including Dogu, to make it seem like Japan was once this super advanced ancient society, and it's very much like Ancient Aliens. It gives me that vibe. The aliens, you know that meme? The guy with the hair, you know what I'm talking about, right? So to this day, we don't know with 100% certainty what these little dudes are, but whatever these bubbly-eyed creatures are, whether they be woman, man, deity, or anything in between, they are very cute, and they're super duper freaky, and I love them so much. And just like that, we're done. We have finished our first 2 artifacts in the mini museum series. We have our little Jomon Dogu right here, and our 3 incantation bowls, 2 that are excellent, and 1, you know, she's here. We did our best. If you've watched this far, thank you so much for joining me on this exciting journey. I've never sculpted really before, so if you have any recommendations or tips or tricks on how to be better at sculpting, then please let me know. And let me know in the comments what you would like to see next on our Mini Museums Shelf of Wonder. That's a really terrible name. We also need to workshop the name. Not a huge fan of what I've named this shelf. I had just so much fun creating these, and I'm really excited to make the next one. Ted's excited too. Her head's right here. What can you do? Alrighty, that is all for this series. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next one. All right. Love you. Bye. Ted, you can't be up here. You're gonna get hair in the incantation bowls. No! Stop! Don't eat my stuff! Ted! Stop eating my things! Stop it! Stop! Don't eat my museum minis!